What if I told you there's a technique, quiet, simple, and invisible, that lets you rewrite the past? And no, it's not fantasy. It's not magic, though it might feel like it. It's something far more grounded and far more powerful, a forgotten law of the mind. Neville Goddard didn't just teach people how to wish for a better life. He taught them how to revise it, directly at the source. Not by changing what's outside, but by reshaping what lives within. He believed and proved that if you alter your perception of a past event, your present will start to reorganize itself. And your future? It follows, without needing to be forced. And if you've carried a version of your past that no longer serves who you are becoming, this is the moment you draw the line. It's not just a memory, it's a pattern. And patterns don't break on their own. They respond to decisions. Right now, your subconscious is listening, and what you declare in this moment will echo far beyond it. So take a breath, pause, and say it, not as a wish, but as a command. I command my past to align now. Type it in the comments if you're ready to stop repeating what no longer fits, because when you declare it, you shift it, and when you shift it, life starts catching up, fast. Now, we continue. Most people live under the weight of old stories, moments they've labeled as failure, conversations they've replayed 100 times, losses, disappointments, near misses, all frozen in memory like they can't be touched. But Neville saw things differently. He said the past isn't fixed, not in the way you've been taught. It lives only in the mind, and the mind is fluid. So when you go back and change what the mind holds onto, really change it, not just pretend, you shift the energy you're carrying. And because life responds to your state of being, not just your actions, that shift becomes a ripple, a new pattern, a new outcome. Let's break it down step by step. Step 1. Find what needs to change. Pick one thing. Just one. Not your entire history. One moment that still tugs at you. Something recent. A letdown, an argument, a disappointment. Maybe you expected money and it didn't arrive. Maybe you had a job interview that didn't go your way. Maybe you woke up with that same tired feeling in your chest, like nothing's moving. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to feel real. Now ask yourself, what if it went differently? What if you could choose a new version of that moment? One that supports who you're becoming, instead of keeping you tied to who you were. This is not about denial, it's about ownership. When you revise, you're not pretending the pain didn't happen. You're deciding that it no longer gets to define you. So close your eyes, yes, even now, and rewrite it. If the money didn't come, imagine that it did. See it in your account. Feel the weight lift from your shoulders. Feel the quiet peace of knowing it arrived when you needed it. If the call never came, see yourself receiving it. Hear the yes. Watch yourself smiling, feeling that confirmation in your body. Not someday, but last week. If the conversation went wrong, change it. Picture their words landing differently. Picture the warmth, the understanding, the resolution. You're not daydreaming, you're directing. You are stepping into the version of that event that brings you power, not pain. Because your subconscious doesn't care what's real. It only cares what's repeated. And once a new story becomes more emotionally real than the old one, your subconscious shifts. And when your subconscious shifts, everything follows. That's why this works. Because what you believe you remember becomes what your nervous system responds to. And your nervous system controls everything. Your actions, your emotions, the way life mirrors back to you. Now you've revised. Good. But don't stop there. Step 2, let it settle. This is the part most people rush through. They revise once, feel a little better, and then go right back to obsessing over results. Neville made it clear, repetition is what impresses the subconscious, not drama, not intensity, consistency. You don't need to believe it completely yet. You just need to keep going back to the new version until your body believes it more than the old one. The best time to do this? Right before sleep. When your mind begins to drift, it stops filtering what's possible and what's not. It stops resisting. That's when the new story seeps in. So tonight, before bed, replay that new version. Not like a fantasy, but like a memory. Feel it in your body. Feel the ease, the joy, the "of course this happened" feeling. Let that be the last thing your subconscious sees before the night takes over. Why? Because in that state, calm, unfocused, in between, your subconscious is most open. It doesn't argue, it absorbs, and what it absorbs becomes your new baseline. When your system starts responding to the new memory as if it's real, it becomes real in your world, not metaphorically, literally. Your decisions change, your tone changes, your presence shifts, and people, events, outcomes begin to mirror that shift back to you. Why? Because you're no longer trying to manifest from lack, you're assuming from alignment. Neville said, persist in the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled, not just once, not just in moments of meditation. Persist. That's what this step is about. It's not about intensity, it's about repetition. You're training your inner world to believe a new version of truth, and once it settles in, life will have no choice but to reflect it back. Tomorrow you may feel lighter without knowing why. Someone may speak to you differently. Something may click into place with no logical explanation. That's not a coincidence. That's resonance. Your revised past is now sending out a different frequency, and the universe, which never misses a signal, begins to respond in kind. Step 3. Move in silence. Once you revise something, once you impress it, the biggest mistake you can make is talking about it. Don't explain it to your friends. Don't share it on social media. Don't even talk about what used to happen. Why? Because every time you speak from the old version, you reactivate it. Neville said, live in the end. That means you walk, breathe, and carry yourself as if the revised version is the only version that ever existed. Would the version of you who already received the money be checking your account every hour? Would the version of you who got the job still be doubting their worth? Would the healed you be telling stories about what went wrong? They'd be living it, quietly, calmly, with certainty. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need validation. The more you seek proof, the more you delay it. Think of it like planting a seed. Once you plant it, you water it. You don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. This is where most people self-sabotage. They do the work and then undo it with doubt, checking, and need. Let it settle. Let the new version become so normal in your mind that talking about the old version feels weird, even foreign. By now, you've planted the new version. You've replayed it, felt it, started letting it replace the old loop. But here's where most people stop too early. They revise once, they feel a flicker of hope, and then they wait. They watch. They scan the outer world for signs that it's working. And by doing that, they fall back into reaction, the very state they were trying to escape. Because here's the thing. The moment you ask, is it working? You're no longer living from the new version. You're back in the old one, still needing proof. Neville called this looking back, and he warned that it pulls you out of your assumption and back into doubt. So what do you do instead? You don't wait. You walk. You carry yourself as the version of you who knows the shift already happened. Not pretending, not forcing, just choosing. Choosing thoughts that align. Choosing reactions that match. Choosing silence when the old story tries to pull you back. Because here's something most people never realize. You don't become your new reality when it arrives. It arrives because you became it first. That's embodiment. And this is the heart of Neville's teachings. To live in the end. To stop negotiating with the old version of life and start acting from the new one, now. So how do you do that? How do you walk through a world that still looks the same, but carry the energy of a reality that hasn't shown up yet? Let's get practical. It starts with one question. How would I think, feel, and act if I already had what I revised, not later? Now, if your revision was about money, ask, what would my thoughts sound like if the money came last week? Would I still be refreshing my bank app? Or would I feel calm, grateful, certain? If you revised a relationship, ask, would I still be overanalyzing that message? Or would I feel secure, connected, loved? If you revised health, ask, would I still be searching for symptoms? Or would I be moving with more trust in my body? These small adjustments matter more than you think, because you're no longer trying to make the new story happen. You're acting from the version where it already did. This is what flips the script. And over time, those small shifts compound. Your tone changes, your energy relaxes, and life starts to mirror back this new baseline. Neville said, to be conscious of being healthy is to be healthy. To be conscious of being rich is to be rich. He wasn't being poetic. He was giving you the formula. The state you occupy, consistently, is the one reality bends around. Not what you wish for. Not what you repeat 10 times in a mirror, but the state you accept as already true. This is why revision works so well. It gives your subconscious a new origin story, a new emotional anchor. And once that's in place, your mind, body, and energy stop fighting the old memory and start feeding the new one. From here, your job is simple. Stay in it. Stay in the new story, not with obsession, but with trust. You don't need to watch it happen. You need to become the version of you who doesn't question if it already did. Let's go even deeper, because there's something subtle but powerful at work when you do this. You're not just revising a moment, you're rewriting your self-concept, and that's where everything changes. Every result in your life, every pattern, every loop is rooted in who you believe yourself to be, and most of that belief was formed through past experiences that left emotional imprints. But when you go back and rewrite those experiences, the identity built on them starts to dissolve. You no longer think from the person who failed. You no longer act from the one who was left. You no longer plan from the version who always struggled. You shift into the version who overcame, who received, who already arrived. And that version starts making new decisions, new assumptions, new actions. Not out of hope, but out of memory, even if that memory is brand new. This is why it works, because life doesn't respond to your desire, it responds to your identity. And identity is nothing more than the story you repeat the most. So start repeating the one you just revised. Let it replace the one that kept looping. Let it settle in your body. Let it become the lens you see everything through. And the moment you feel like checking for results, pause, breathe, and remind yourself, I'm not here to chase proof. I'm here to live from the version that already knows. Because when you do that, something incredible happens. You stop leaking energy. All that doubt, all that mental chatter, all of those conversations you were having in your head, gone. You're no longer spinning. You're standing. There's a steadiness that comes when you stop asking for permission to believe. When you just believe. Not loudly, not performatively, quietly, inwardly, powerfully. And this is when things start to move. This is when the people shift. The email comes. The call arrives. The opportunity presents itself, and it feels right on time. Not because you forced it, but because you matched it. You lived from the state where it already belonged to you. And life finally caught up. Let's be honest. This sounds simple. But living from a new story, while the old one still lingers around you, that takes courage. Because your senses will tempt you to doubt. The bank balance won't reflect what you revised. The person you imagine harmony with might still act distant. Your body may not yet mirror the vitality you felt. And in those moments, your old assumptions will whisper, "See, it didn't work. Nothing's changed. This was just in your head." But here's the truth most people never hear. It is in your head. That's exactly where it needs to be. Because your head, your imagination, your assumption, is what creates the next chapter. Neville said, "Your imagination is God." He didn't mean this metaphorically. He meant that the power to shape reality lives inside your inner world, not out in the facts, not in what others say, not in what appears. So when the world looks the same and you're tempted to go back to doubting, don't. This is the moment you double down. You hold the line. You say, "No, I've revised it. I've felt it. I've walked it. And I don't need the world to catch up immediately, because it already is." You don't argue with what's showing. You remember what you've already chosen, because this is the difference between trying to manifest and actually doing it. People who try wait for proof. People who live from the new state become the proof. That's the shift. Let's break it even further. What you're doing when you revise isn't changing the outer world directly. You're changing your assumption of self. And as Neville taught, change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. It's not about controlling outcomes. It's about becoming someone new inside the memory. Think about that. When you revise the argument, you're not just changing their words. You're becoming the version of you who no longer argues. When you revise the rejection, you're not just imagining a yes. You're becoming the version of you who gets picked. When you revise the lack, you're not daydreaming about money. You're becoming the version who already has it. This is identity work, disguised as imagination. and identity always wins. That's why this method is so powerful. Because you're not just manipulating images, you're reprogramming your entire self-concept. And when your self-concept shifts, reality must rearrange. The calls that didn't come, they show up. The behavior that used to trigger you, it stops mattering. The blocks you kept running into, they loosen then vanish. But it only happens when you stop chasing change and start assuming it's done. That's the real discipline here. Not forcing, not trying, knowing. And it's subtle. So subtle, most people miss it. They think this work is about effort, about visualizing more, about working harder in their mind. But it's not. It's about quiet control. It's about the ability to sit in a room that hasn't shifted yet and feel the shift anyway. That's power. That's what the universe responds to, because life doesn't care what you want. It mirrors who you are being. And if who you're being is calm, settled, clear in your assumption, then the world around you has to bend to meet it. This is not magic, it's mechanics. Consciousness mechanics. The same way gravity works, whether you believe in it or not, your assumptions are shaping your future, right now. So revise wisely. Now I'll say something that might surprise you. You don't need to revise every painful memory. You don't need to go back through your whole life with a fine-tooth comb. You just need to change what still lives in your body. That moment that still stings when you think about it, the thing you keep talking about, the situation that pops into your mind when things feel stuck, that's the one. Start there. Because once that story is replaced, the ripple effect will reach further than you expect. Your energy will move. Your tone will change. You'll walk lighter, speak differently, respond in new ways, and people will notice. But here's what you won't do. You won't explain it. Because when you say it like it's already done, the universe doesn't ask questions. It listens, not to your voice, but to your signal. And the moment that signal shifts, reality begins to reorganize around it. Quietly, precisely, unapologetically. But here's what most people don't understand. You won't always feel it immediately. Sometimes the shift is subtle. Sometimes you only notice because you're not reacting the way you used to. And that matters, because transformation doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it comes in the silence, when you no longer flinch at the thing that used to hurt. That's the power of revision. It's not a fantasy, it's a recoding. Your subconscious mind, the part of you running 95% of your reality, doesn't care if something happened in the physical world or only in the emotional one. It accepts whatever you feed it most consistently. And most people are feeding it stories they hate, without even realizing it. They keep replaying the wrong version, the betrayal, the failure, the almost. Not because they want to, but because they haven't been shown how to stop. Revision is how you stop. It's how you cut the loop. You go back, not to dwell, but to take your power back. You don't run from the memory. You rewrite it. You don't deny the pain. You dissolve its dominance. And suddenly, you're not scared to remember anymore. Because the memory no longer controls your future. That's not avoidance. That's authority. Neville said it simply, man is all imagination. Therefore, man must be wherever he is in imagination. You already live inside your assumptions. You always have. Now you're just choosing them consciously. And this choice, it builds. Because once you revise one memory, something clicks. You realize, if that moment isn't final, maybe none of them are. That missed opportunity, it didn't define you. That mistake, it's not your identity. That silence from someone you cared about, it's not a life sentence. You stop walking around as a version of yourself that got frozen in someone else's moment. You thaw. You melt back into movement. And people around you feel it, even if they can't name it. They'll say you seem lighter, more present, calmer. Not because something changed outside, but because you're no longer carrying the weight of the unrewritten past. That's the beauty of this work. It doesn't ask you to beg, or wait, or prove anything to anyone. It just asks you to decide, what version of your story are you loyal to? And if the version you've been holding doesn't reflect who you're becoming, then it's time to let it go. Not with bitterness, with certainty. Because revision isn't revenge, it's restoration. You're not changing the past to hurt anyone else. You're changing it so you can finally stop hurting yourself, so you can finally show up in the present, clean. That's what happens when you live from a revised state. You stop being a reaction. You start being a signal. And here's what's wild. You'll start to forget what the old story even felt like. Not because you're suppressing it, but because your nervous system doesn't identify with it anymore. Your body, your mind, your emotions, they start organizing around the new version. So if you revised being chosen, you'll stop chasing. If you revised abundance, you'll stop stressing over every cent. If you revised love, you'll stop mistaking anxiety for connection. It all reorients, naturally, effortlessly, because you are no longer managing your life through fear. You're living from memory, just not the memory that broke you. Now, some people hear this and ask, but what about the truth? What about what really happened? And the answer is simple. If the memory is keeping you trapped, what exactly is the value in holding on? You don't owe your pain your loyalty. You're not rewriting to deny. You're rewriting to disengage, to detach from the emotional charge that's been tying your hands behind your back. You're not rewriting to erase. You're rewriting to evolve. There's nothing dishonest about freeing yourself. Let's take this even deeper. Your brain is designed to protect its current identity. That's why change feels threatening, even when it's good. But when you revise, you're not arguing with the old story. You're replacing it. Not by fighting, by feeling something new more often than you feel the old. And when your body starts recognizing this as normal, that's when real life catches up. Not all at once, not always loudly, but absolutely, undeniably in ways you can't ignore. You'll say, well, that's weird. I used to react to this. Or, I can't believe I'm not worried right now. Or, why does this feel so natural suddenly? That's revision at work. Not just a mental exercise, but a nervous system reset. A spiritual homecoming. You're no longer waiting for peace. You're living from it. So don't rush the process. Let it settle. Let the old identity dissolve quietly. There's nothing to push. Just assume. Neville's most powerful teaching wasn't about force. It was about faith. Dare to assume. Dare to feel the version of you who made it, who healed, who's not waiting for anything else to begin. And, if ever you forget, go back. Go back to the moment you rewrote. Replay it like it's yours, because it is. This is your permission to revise again and again, until the only version you remember is the one that frees you. And if no one told you this yet, you don't need to earn the right to shift. You don't need to suffer long enough before you're allowed to rewrite the script. You are allowed to step into a new reality right now. No permission, no explanation, no approval, just assumption. Assume it's done. Assume it happened differently. Assume the new version of you is not becoming. It already is. And then carry that quietly, like a secret only you and the universe know. Not because you're hiding, but because you finally belong to yourself again. This is not a technique. It's a return. A return to the truth that was always there. Your past was never the boss of your future. Your story isn't finished. It's just being told by someone new now. You. So as we close this space together, I'll ask you to remember one thing. You don't shift reality by begging for change. You shift it by becoming the one who no longer needs to beg. Let the world adjust to your new frequency. And trust, it will. If this spoke to you, if a part of you woke up again, then you already know the work began the moment you said yes to it. And if you want to keep walking this path, quietly, consistently, without noise, go ahead and subscribe. Not for me, for the version of you you're choosing to become. Let each video be a reminder of who you already are. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.